Hebron, New Hampshire, Jeff. Population 627 people.
Yeah, this is a small town. It sits on the north side of Newfound Lake. It's the kind of town where everyone, knows everyone.
Yeah, small town New England. A white steepled church, a town green, and, well, not much else.
No, it's the kind of place a person could fly under the radar. I mean, who would look for you here?
I could see how no one would pay much attention in a town like this.
So imagine, if you will, that someone so notorious that he's known the world over moves into a cottage in town and stays here for months working on some dark, dark magic. Ray, we've come to Hebron, New Hampshire to search for Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man in the world. Hey, I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger. Welcome to episode 311 of the New England Legends podcast. Thank you for joining us on our quest to chronicle every legend in New England one story at a time. And we can't do it without you. If you've got a story lead for us, contact us anytime through our website. And while you're on the website, you can find access to all of our past podcast episodes, plus video segments from the New England Legends television series that you can watch right now on Amazon Prime, and see all of the upcoming dates for my band, the Pub Kings, and Jeff's fall story tour.
We'll go searching for the wickedest man in the world in Hebron, New Hampshire, right after this quick word from this sponsor.
Okay, Jeff, we're looking for the wickedest man in the world?
Yeah, that's what they called Aleister Crowley.
All right, so not wicked as in the New England slang.
No.
So he's not the wickedest man in the world. He's the wickedest man in the world.
Now you get it.
Okay, got it.
Good.
So I've heard of Aleister Crowley, and not just because of the 1980 Ozzy Osbourne song.
Mr. Crowley, what went on in your head?
Oh, Mr. Crowley, did you talk to the dead?
You fooled all the people with magic. Yeah, you waited on Satan's call. I want to know what you meant. And then right here, Randy Rhoads would just slay a guitar solo.
Classic song.
About a real guy named Aleister Crowley.
I thought Crowley was British.
Yep, he was, absolutely. Born in 1875 in Warwickshire, England. But he's got a New England connection through a cottage right here in Hebron. Let's head down Church Lane.
Okay, we just passed the Hebron Library.
Yep, and our destination is the next house here on the left.
So there's a white house with a white picket fence out front and what looks like a smaller guest house next to it.
So the house was built in 1803, and it's under private ownership, so we'll just have to observe from the street here.
And this house has a connection to Aleister Crowley?
It does. So between 1913 and 1918, the house was owned by a psychic medium named Evangeline Adams. Now, she and Crowley collaborated on writing some books on astrology. Crowley stayed at this house for 4 months during a period of his life that he called magic retirement. Now, he claimed he did secret and arcane things inside this house during that time.
So God knows what he opened up in there.
God knows is right. Now, to find out more, let's head back to 1916 and meet Aleister Crowley.
It's May of 1916 here in Hebron, New Hampshire. Woodrow Wilson is president of the United States, and the world is at war. Though there's pressure on the United States to enter the war, so far America has remained neutral.
Hebron is small, quiet. It's a peaceful town. It's the perfect place for retreat, especially from war-torn Europe. Enter Aleister Crowley.
Now, a little more about Aleister Crowley. He was born to a wealthy family in England. He grew up privileged and devoted himself to poetry, painting, writing, climbing mountains, philosophy, and occultism.
Those are exactly the kind of things you can do when you don't need to have a real job.
That's right. He founded a religion called Thelema. The word is an English translation to a Greek word meaning to will, wish, want, or purpose. The tenet of the faith comes from Crowley's most famous quote, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." So basically, do anything you want, whenever you want.
Well, not exactly. I mean, sure, follow your bliss is a big part of the point, but that doesn't mean there's no repercussions for your actions, words, and your deeds. So, if you punching me in the face is what thou wilt, I may punch back.
Okay, that's fair.
So Crowley studied the occult. He practiced ceremonial magic. He traveled the world studying various forms of mysticism and alchemy. He used drugs. He was openly bisexual. He spoke out against what he saw were social ills. Misfits of all kinds were drawn to him. He became a member of the Golden Dawn and actively promoted his writings and his new religion called Thelema.
What is ceremonial magic?
Okay, so Crowley would tell you it's the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. So basically, it's like part psychology, part philosophy, part alchemy. You have intent on something you want or a specific outcome, and you focus that intent through rituals, actions, and so on.
All right. Now, what I know about alchemy is that it's this medieval sorcery where they tried to turn lesser metals into gold.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was the beginning. If I could take some iron and turn it into gold by mixing it with chemicals and forcing my magical will on the metal, I mean, I'd be rich beyond belief.
Now, as far as I know, no one was successful making lesser metals into gold, or we would have heard of it.
True. Now, over the centuries, people like Crowley loved the idea of alchemy as more of a metaphor. So instead of trying to turn iron into gold, how about trying to turn parts of yourself into something better, or trying to forge a new relationship with someone through ritual and magic, or tapping into your own creativity?
Got it.
Okay, so to many, Crowley is a prophet. He's a visionary. But to most others, he's a kook at best and a dangerous devil worshiper at worst. And now he's moving into this cottage here in Hebron, New Hampshire, to stay with his friend, Evangeline Adams.
Being a small town, folks around here mostly keep to themselves. Many have never heard of Aleister Crowley, so they pay Evangeline's guests little mind.
Crowley quickly settles into his summer getaway. He spends time canoeing on the lake. He's taking in nature, pondering the universe, and working on rituals.
He's heading into the woods. Let's follow him. Oh, what's he doing with that frog?
I don't know.
I don't like the looks of this.
Oh, he's making a wooden cross out of some branches?
Oh, man, this is awful.
Oh, he's nailing the frog to the cross. I mean, he's literally crucifying the frog.
Oh, I think I'm going to be sick. Oh, now he's eating the frog.
I don't get what crucifying a frog will get you, but I suppose he has his reasons. I mean, do what thou wilt, and thou may get salmonella. Back at the cottage in Hebron, Crowley is hard at work on his craft. He's performing sex magic and working on a ritual to end Christianity.
End Christianity?
I know, it's a bold endeavor. I'm not sure if the frog crucifixion played any part in the ritual.
Well, I can guarantee you the frog will never become a Christian now.
That's a good point.
Weeks go by and Crowley continues his rituals, his writing, his walks in the woods, and his canoe trips on the lake. At one point, Crowley writes he was visited by a strange fireball. Just another day in the life of a guy called the wickedest man in the world.
After 4 months, Aleister Crowley packs up his things and ends his retreat ready to go make mischief in the world again. And that brings us back to today. Aleister Crowley died in 1947. He was 72 years old, but his writings and work became an inspiration for various counterculture movements, especially in the 1960s. So his legacy and his religion live on.
And he cast some of those spells right here at this house in front of us. Do you think any of it was real?
So, Ray, I know, like me, you were raised Catholic. You sat in church and watched the Mass. Ritual magicians will tell you that you've seen plenty of ritual magic. You watch the priest perform it at an altar. You watch the priest say spells and incantations over wine and flat crackers. You believed those spells and incantations turned that wine into the blood of Christ and the crackers into the body of Christ. So for the faithful, that magic works each and every week. And, of course, that's just one example.
But I've never seen a priest crucify a frog.
I haven't either. And maybe that was Crowley's point. To be absurd at times, if not cruel. To make waves and ask if what he does is any stranger than what rabbis, priests, or imams do at their religious ceremonies.
But when you attack specific religions like Christianity, some people take that personally.
Yeah, they do. As if it's some fragile thing that could be brought down by one person. I mean, sometimes the faithful seem to have little faith.
I feel like there's a lot of people today who are already on board with Crowley's mantra of do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Yeah, there are some people out there who live that way and seem oblivious to the consequences part. Still, it's worth mentioning that there are 2 follow-ups to that mantra, 2 more tenets of the religion that really don't get mentioned enough. Part 2 is, love is the law, love under will. And part 3 is, every man and every woman is a star.
And we thank you're a star for riding along with us every week. New legends every Thursday at noon, and From the Vault with new commentary every Monday.
And that takes us to After the Legend, where we take a deeper dive into this week's story and often veer off course.
After the Legend is brought to you by our Patreon patrons. This legendary group of people help us financially with all of our show expenses. They get early ad-free access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. They get access to us, too. We love responding to Q&As in our extra episodes. If you can help the cause, we'd appreciate it. Just head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up.
If you'd like to see some pictures of Aleister Crowley and this Hebron cottage, click on the link in the episode description or go to our website and click on episode 311. Witchcraft, magic.
Yeah, you know what? Because he was the subject of a very popular song, sometimes it's hard to believe that this guy actually existed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you think of him as a fictional character, but no, he was
real.
He was real.
Tons of pictures of him doing weird things. He was, I don't even, you know, sometimes you wonder, is it weird for the sake of weird, or is it more of just really trying to like stand out? And people who have stood out, we've talked about plenty of people who've stood out, the eccentrics, right?
Sure.
But he was trying to make waves. I think he was trying to like
shock value, perhaps, or really believed in what he was talking about.
Both.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe just realizing like the only way to affect change is to really like shake people up.
Well, life can be rather boring at times too. So, if you take on this kind of persona, you're going to get attention.
He was a nonconformist from the beginning to the end.
That.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess the only thing I don't appreciate is the devil worshipping and the witchcraft to a certain extent.
So devil worshipping, I don't think he was worshiping the devil. I don't appreciate torturing animals.
Well, that too.
That's pretty messed up. But I don't think he was worshiping the devil. But people on the outside sure thought he was.
Sure.
Right? Like, oh, you're definitely not one of us. And what you're doing is witchcraft. Now, we've used the word witchcraft, society, for many, many centuries, right? Like, oh, you don't like what the preacher has to say? Well, that's what a witch would say.
Right.
Oh,
she's a witch. Burn her.
Build a bridge out of her. Welcome to 1692 Salem, right?
Right, yeah.
So we use it to other people,
yeah.
where we say like, okay, you're not with us. You're on the outside, so you're another. But interestingly, when you talk about witchcraft and magic, and I'm sure some of these subjects made some people uncomfortable listening to it. And my friend Christian Day, who calls himself a warlock, but also a witch, he owns various witchy shops, including in Salem and New Orleans and so on. He's an author and so on. But I love what he says about it. He said, he said, people get nervous about witchcraft and magic because they know it's real and it works.
I don't disagree with him.
Right. And so if you're like, it's all just whatever, it's just
smoke and mirrors.
You're just kooky. Like that's all it is. If you really believe that, then you would have no problem with someone like at their altar mixing potions, saying bubble, toilet trouble. Yeah, whatever. But
what if it works?
What if it works? And let me take it further. So we use the Catholic example, which, by the way, like any ritual magician will tell you, like you've watched that every week.
Absolutely.
That you went to church. Like it's just the priest did it, not you.
Right.
And the incense and the holy water and all that other stuff. This is
rituals.
It's ritual. It's spells or prayers. We'd call them prayers.
I like how we gave everything a different name.
Yeah.
In our religion, we made it softer.
Right. It's a prayer. It's a, and by the way, it's so interesting. Some of these, you went to them for healing. You're like, oh God, I'm sick, but I don't know where else to go. I'm going to go to the witch in the woods.
Or you go to the priest.
You go to the priest. The priest says a prayer. The witch gives you some herbs and stuff that might actually help.
Right. Instead of just like bow your head.
Yeah.
And let's sit in silence for 3 minutes.
Yeah. Let's say some novenas and maybe that rash will go away.
But the witch or the sorcerer is actually digging into the earth and like, oh, this will work and maybe this. And
so the incantations, by the way, I read this long ago. I forget which book, but it's so you hear about these spells and stuff, double, boil, trouble, whatever. Part of that was because they needed the stuff to cook for a specific amount of time. And they didn't have clocks. They didn't have timers like we do. They didn't like
timed it with the spell.
Ray, I'm mixing this stuff. Hit the microwave for like 3 minutes, right? Like so,
Alexa, set timer for 3 minutes.
Right. They didn't have that, so you would.
Starting now.
All right.
That was.
Thank you, Alexa. Cancel.
Okay, canceling your timer.
Thank you.
Great. I wonder how many people listen to this.
Right.
And
Sorry, everyone.
Anyway, but so I mean, how many people go there? And so you would say these spells because that was how much time it had to cook, how long it took you to say this this incantation is how long it would cook. But anyway, so these, but you believed it worked, and sometimes it did. Like that, there was herbs and so on that had healing properties, and that's what you paid for. You believed it worked, and it intimidates you because you don't have control over it. And so, sports fans, right? How many sports fans are like, okay, I'm watching my favorite team. The remote has to be on my left side.
Right.
I have to be wearing my team socks, right? And my hat's got to be backwards.
Yep.
Right. And then the team tends to do better.
Right.
That's insane.
It's absolutely insane.
But we've all done it.
I've told you, I had a friend that couldn't watch the game.
Yeah.
Biggest Pats fan I ever met.
Right.
Couldn't watch the game. He had to be in the other room.
Yeah.
What?
What a fan.
Right? He'd wear the shirts and the hats and everything.
Did
but
you
just
see
couldn't
last
watch
night's
the
game? No.
Heard it from the other room, but I couldn't watch.
What kind of fan are you? Like, no, but I get it. And so like we think like, oh, if I just do this thing, it will affect the outcome of this thing that obviously, the Pats aren't like, all right, we're going in for the kick. And then the coach looks at the camera and goes, is the remote on the left side of you, Ray? Like before.
I have a feeling Ray's hat is on normal.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work
Ray,
for us.
Turn it around. Hurry up. Like this is a long kick. This is like 50 yards.
Well, some people believe that if enough people do the same thing, what is that theory?
The intention of a group?
Yeah.
Like group prayer and stuff? Of course, if everybody wants the same thing, like if we're all focusing on the same idea, no, I'm not begrudging the power of prayer or religion or otherwise. There's of course like
I just find that interesting. I'll begrudge it, but I find it interesting.
But I think too, it's the same sort of mechanics. You're focusing your intent. Yeah. Right. My intent is that I want to be a better person. I want to quit smoking. I want to do whatever. Like that's there's some people that do that in church or with a priest or a rabbi or an imam. Other people want to like get their hands in it and be more more active participant. Right. And if it doesn't fall into what most of society does, we call it witchcraft or ceremonial magic, or you're on the outside, or devil worship, which isn't really fair. Sometimes people are like, this has nothing to do with the devil. I find these herbs will actually soothe the rash.
Right.
It'll calm my stomach. It will, whatever. So, no, that's something that's, it's just another way to keep people on the outside, and we keep them on the outside until we need them, right? Until you're like, I went to the doctor, I went to the priest, that didn't work. I'm going to go see the witch in the woods, and the witch,
last resort. Yeah.
But the witch might fix you,
eats you, puts you in an oven and eats you. No, because you pay the witch. We've heard too many stories about kids getting stuffed in ovens.
Because we're still othering those people, right? We're still saying like, don't go talk to the witch in the woods. She's dangerous. She'll eat you. She might be like, I'm a vegetarian, right? You know what I mean? Like, I have no interest in that.
The leaves that I find.
Yeah, like
the plants.
So I'm just saying, like that's one of the many, many ways that we have always like tried to keep certain groups to the way outside, and we call them witches. And at some point, of course, the danger of that is that we kill them.
Yeah.
Right. It happened. Salem, it happened all over the world in various witch trials. Happens today where we say like, oh, you're not with us.
Banishing people.
We banish them. We cancel them. We do all.
But we celebrate them around October. We flock to Salem.
Oh, we do. We do. We have such a weird relationship with this stuff that scares us. But in our heart of hearts, we also know there's something to it.
Yeah.
There's something very primal and real about it. And Aleister Crowley tapped into that. And this guy just stayed at this little house for 4 months in Hebron and left a mark that it's becoming a bit of a landmark where you're like, whoa, this guy who's reached legendary status the world over. Thank you, Ozzy, and many others. And just because he was there and doing some weird stuff, we can't help but look twice when we go by the house.
Be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts because it's free. And if you could tell others about us, that's how we grow. Post new episodes to your social media or shout it from the rooftops. It takes a community to find and bring you new stories each week. So we appreciate when you spread the word and post reviews for us.
We'd like to thank our sponsors. Thank you so much to our Patreon patrons. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
the bizarre is closer than you think.